So Kamala Harris recently visited the border, and in her border visit, she had some things to say, and she wanted to focus on immigration. Now, let me preface this by saying that I think that all of our legislators should be intimately familiar with what's going on at the border, especially if you where the borders are. No, you don't think that immigration is important? You think that she's visiting the border 3.5 years too late? So what y'all saying? She should have visited that they should have been visiting the border all while they were in office in their administration, and they just completely dropped the ball while they was floating around and hanging out with fairies and dancing on the White House lawn with all of these people that were dressing these men that were dressed in dresses that they should have been at the border trying to solve our crisis. Y'all want our leaders to actually do leadership things? Let's go ahead and rock out, y'all.
We turn now to the White House with just over 5 weeks to go until Election Day. Vice President Harris is hoping to gain ground on the issue of immigration, visiting the southern border. ABC's Christian Cordero has more on that. Christian, good morning.
Hey, Whit, good morning to you. Yeah, Vice President Kamala Harris wants to flip the script on immigration, knowing this is a vulnerable issue for her. So she met with officials at the border in Douglas, Arizona yesterday, leaning into two main themes there. One, the fentanyl crisis. She vowed to crack down on the...
Listen, man, what you see right here, this is nothing but a photo op. This is not. Look, you could have met with them and kicked it with them and been visiting the border the whole time, and then you could have met with them on Zoom if you just really wanted to. But they wanted to make sure, I'm gonna just be honest with you, they wanted to make sure that the cameras was out there, that they get a good photo op, that they show you guys that she's really being tough on the border. People are telling me that they did some research on her necklace. I guess she didn't know that people research everything. That they did some research on her necklace, and her necklace cost $62,000. Somebody told me that the necklace that she's wearing while putting on her border gear to show that she's really in tune with the people cost $62,000. What a tool. This woman is such a tool.
Flow of fentanyl coming into the U.S., citing her experience as a prosecutor as one of the reasons why she's equipped to take this issue on. She also slammed former President Trump for his role in tanking the bipartisan border security bill that would have hired 1,500 border agents, among other things, saying he prefers to run on a problem instead of fixing it. Trump's main response to all of this has essentially been, what's taking you so long? He repeatedly pegs Harris as the border czar, criticizes her for not visiting it sooner. And overnight, the Border Patrol Union also firing back, calling Harris's visit a photo op. During his campaign stop in Michigan yesterday, Trump doubled down on his promise to close the border and begin the largest deportation in American history. Trump heads to Wisconsin today, where he's expected to single out violent crimes migrants have committed and say the administration is to blame. Worth noting, border apprehensions surged under the Biden administration, but ever since an executive action in June started limiting the number of asylum claims, border apprehensions have actually gone down significantly by more than 100,000 people last month alone.
But you know what's so interesting? The number of flights over here, as far as them flying them in, has actually gone up. They solved for one problem that they created in order to create another problem to solve for. This is her speech, and this is some of the highlights of what she was saying as far as how she's going to tackle immigration and illegal migration into this country.
Because I know transnational gangs coming across the border.
And I'm so tired of hearing that same transnational gangs. And I prosecuted transnational gangs and
trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings could care less who somebody voted for in the last election. They could care less. They've got one goal in mind. And it is therefore critically important that anybody who calls themselves a leader
nice necklace.
would work with other leaders for common sense solutions, understanding the pain and the suffering that Americans are experiencing if we don't work together to fix these problems. And look, transnational gangs, one of the things I know about them, they are always innovating. So to disrupt them, we must do the same. And
so let me just make sure that we get this, we get a true understanding of what's happening. She's talking about if you notice and you're paying attention to what she's talking about, she says transnational gangs. Okay, let me say that again for the people in the back. Transnational gangs. She is not mentioning no speech at no point on this campaign trail or at any point of her vice presidency has she ever said illegal migrants or illegal immigration into this country. Y'all got to pay attention to the context clues. Y'all got to listen to what people are saying. She's talking about an immigration transformation at the border, but she's not talking about stemming the flow of illegal migrants into the country. She's talking about transnational gangs. It's the only thing that she speaks of. She talks about fentanyl and transnational gangs. She does not talk about, at any point, she has never mentioned, never. Listen, look at her speeches, look at her campaign stops, look at her rallies, look at her interviews that she's done, that she's followed. She never, ever speaks about illegal migrants running into the country, flying people over here, the national parole program, how they got over here in the first place. And she always only says, well, I prosecuted transnational gangs. She never, ever, ever speaks on illegal migrants into this country. And even when they start to press her and they ask her, oh, hey, what's going on with Springfield, Ohio and Aurora over there in Colorado, and what's happening over in Pennsylvania? She said, oh, they're not eating dogs and cats. They're not eating dogs and cats. What the heck is a trans? I don't even know what a transnational gang is because I'm a C student. I'm slow. I'm a C student, so it's a little bit slow to me. What does that mean? Do they wear dresses and come over here as men or come over here as women, but they were biologically men? What the hell is a transnational gang in the first place? It doesn't even, I want to know why we don't have a stopping of the flow of people into this country and they're coming over here legally instead of coming over here illegally. That's all I want to know. It's a very simple question for a C student like me. And if I'm a C student, based off of what I've been doing on these street interviews, because we're going to talk about that later on today, if I'm a C student, then it must be a whole lot of D students out here. Because when I was talking on the streets, people was confusing me and they didn't know what they was talking about. They was just talking.
And that means, again, working together in real time, grounded on finding common sense approaches, not just about some rhetoric at a rally, but actually doing the work of fixing a problem.
And people just applaud for anything.
And as president, I won't only bring back the border security bill that Donald Trump tanked, I will do more to secure our border. To reduce illegal border crossings, I will take further action to keep the border closed between ports of entry. Those who cross our borders unlawfully will be apprehended and removed and barred from re-entering for 5 years. We will pursue more severe criminal charges against repeat violators. And if someone does not make an asylum request at a legal point of entry and instead crosses our border unlawfully, they will be barred from receiving asylum.
So, you already know about the National Parole Program. We've talked about that multiple times. If you're new here, then go and look at the live streams from last week. We can break that down. But here's Kari Lake. Kari Lake is saying that Kamala Harris is absolutely desperate in her attempt to try to shore up support based off of people that think that immigration is a huge issue inside of this country.
Welcome back now to the border, the open border. On Friday, the vice president traveled to the southern border in Douglas, Arizona, calling for tougher border security measures, despite having an open border policy throughout the Biden-Harris administration that has seen more than 8 million people illegally enter America, hundreds on the terrorist watch list, thousands of others already having committed murder, as well as more than 2 million evading apprehension altogether, the gotaways who have disappeared into America without a trace. Immigration and Customs Enforcement revealing this week to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez that more than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder are currently free in the United States and on ICE's non-detained docket. In a statement to Fox News, Homeland Security says this: the data in this letter is being misinterpreted. The data goes back decades. It includes individuals who are entered the country over the past 40 years or more, the vast majority of whose custody determination was made long before this administration. It also includes many who are under the jurisdiction or currently incarcerated by federal, state, and local law enforcement partners.
So they lying to us. They told us a white lie. They didn't give us the context, and this is why you got to start to deep dive into the details.
Joining me now with more on the Biden-Harris border crisis is Arizona Senate candidate Kari Lake and Art Del Creto. He's the vice president of the National Border Patrol Council. Thanks very much for being here to you both. I want to get the facts on the ground. First off, Art, take this on. The DHS is saying, no. The 13,000 people who are in this country who are actually murderers already, that's being misinterpreted.
Well, I mean, I think it's just sweeping under the rug, because the story came out, and you've got to ask these individuals, where's anyone that you've allowed in the country? That's what you got to ask them. Where are all the people that have come in under this administration? Where are they? Have you kept track of them? And if they're going to come back and say, oh, no, this is decades, well, then you know what? They haven't been doing their job for decades, because where are all these individuals that they've allowed in the country? But again, I think it's just something, they're just trying to, change the focus on it and look at something, making you look at something else. But the issue is clear, and I think the American public understands that, and we just cannot afford 4 more years of this.
Yeah, I have the letter to Tony Gonzalez here, Kari Lake, and basically they're saying that it's 13,000 people who have committed murder that are running free, 15,000 others who have committed rape. Your reaction to Kamala Harris's border visit in Arizona on Friday?
I found it despicable. She spent 20 minutes on the border. She's been the border czar, Maria, for almost 4 years now. And
Well, that's all you need to get some good Instagram photos and post it on Facebook. Listen. In 3.5 years, you spent around 20 minutes at the border. When you in campaign season, less than 2 months to the election. 20 minutes at the border to get a photo op. 20 minutes to get a photo op. That's the equivalent of walking up to somebody's car and saying, "Can I take a picture with it?" and then putting it on Instagram like you balling, or Instagram baddie, or out here capping for the gram. She capping for the gram. She capping for the campaign. She capping for the public trail. She capping for Facebook. She capping for Instagram. She capping for YouTube. She capping for TikTok. 20 minutes at the border. I wonder how much it costs U.S. taxpayers to fly her out to the border for that photo op.
she came down, I think, to make her friends in the mainstream media happy so that they could finally say she visited the border. Spent 20 minutes staring down at her feet, standing next to the wall. And I was surprised she didn't call Joe Biden and say, "We did it, Joe. We destroyed America," because that's exactly what they're attempting to do. And Art just mentioned it, 30,000 convicted rapists and murderers are roaming around in our country. What they didn't mention in that list was the number of terrorists that are in our country right now. We're living in dangerous times. They just discovered IEDs and other weapons right on the other side of the border in Arizona. And, you have to wonder, are those meant for some of the terrorists that are now roaming around? And what about the 325,000 children who've been trafficked over our border, who Kamala Harris and my opponent, Ruben Gallego, who's in lockstep with her, have lost track of? My opponent has been 100% voting with Kamala Harris. He's open borders. He calls the border wall dumb and stupid, and he said he would never, ever, ever put a penny into building it. And he is for these sanctuary cities. I was recently in New York. That city is a wreck right now, and you can blame it on illegal immigration, even though they're not on the southern border.
And that's why Eric Adams is catching hell right now.
They're feeling the effects of it.
Yeah.
So, Kamala Harris visited the border. She said that she would be tough on transnational gangs, but she's not going to actually stem the flow of immigrants into this country.